All right, today we're going to make a record. This is a great little project. This is something that was inspired by the Werewolves autobiography, with one of the projects being the soundtrack of my life, where you pick two songs that you feel represent who you are, or they're your favorite songs. Could be community songs, could be anything really. And I really just wanted to kind of show you an example of what I would do as a possibility, hopefully to inspire you or to get you started on this project. I've chosen to print out some specimen sheets using some type here from a book. You could find type in magazines, you could find some type in newspapers. You could also use photography. It's really up to you. You could even hand draw this type. I'm just choosing to do it this way. I really have a lot of fun with this project, and I just wanted to share the work that I was presenting in class. So as you can see here, I'm just cutting out the letters. I'm lining them up. I'm thinking about how I'm going to put those on my record cover. And this is going to be my title. You could have your own title. You definitely might want to include your name. You might even want to give it some kind of a fun title. That's up to you. I'm using construction paper here. I'm just going to make these little strips of color and glue down my letters, a lot like a ransom note. This also reminds me a lot of the early 80s sort of punk rock records or fanzines that were put together in a very sort of simple way. And it definitely has a look and a feel to it. We went over a lot of different kind of record covers in class. I showed you everything from mostly photographic to illustrated, hand-drawn, painted, even some with just some simple crayon work that was kind of cool. Maybe you spend a little bit of time searching album covers, or maybe your parents or older siblings, if you have some, maybe they have some records. Really look at those records and look at all the little bits and pieces, all the fine details. Really get into all the different graphic elements that are on the cover of your album. Next, we're going to make the actual record. I'm just going to use this Rice Krispie box. I found a bowl. I'm going to trace the shape of that bowl, the outside circle. And this is what I am going to use to make the actual record. Any of these parts of this video, any parts you can use, you don't have to do every single thing I'm doing here. Again, I'm just kind of going all out here because I really enjoyed this project. I've never actually built something like this. So I just wanted to show you how you might approach doing something like this. Again, this is going to be the record. There's no specific size. I'm really going to be basing all of the work on this record, and the record was really based on what I had available for a large circle and materials. I've got a smooth side here, and I don't know if the paint's going to stick to it very well, so I'm going to go ahead and cut out another circle. And after I paint the surface that is raw, the brown side, I will glue them together. It will also add some stability to the feeling of this record that I'm making. All right, we got both of those cut out. Again, I'm just going to eventually glue them together. And the reason was, like I was explaining, is the coated side of that cardboard might be hard to paint, or it might be hard to have the paint stick to it. So I'm going to go ahead and just do two and sandwich them together. I'm just using a regular old tempera paint. You could use a marker, you could use ink if you had some ink. Make sure you kind of clean up as you go. This could get a little messy. The nice thing too about that cardboard is it really dried up really quickly. Okay, so let's look at a record again. One of the details is this inner part. It's got some information. It tells us side A and side B, and so that is also something that I'm going to include here. I'm just folding my paper in half, finding another object to trace. That will be the inner part of my record. One more little detail I'd like to do is create the illusion of the grooves on this album, on this record. So I'm just going to paint some lines here going around the shape of the record. Again, the idea here is we're just having a lot of fun with this. Okay, now I'm going to glue those center parts in. Think about the details. Normally there's a hole here to lay the record on the record player. I'm just going to paint those in. Next, I'm just going to simply put side A and side B on to that pink inner part of the record. And that's it. I'm going to glue these together now. And I think I'm going to trim up a little bit. And there we have it. There's my record. Pretty cool, huh? Alright, let's look at the album cover itself. So again, we have the record inside. We have, on this particular one, we have type on the back, we have type on the front, we have pictures, some fun graphic symbols, barcodes. Maybe you put your class logo on there. That's all of that information is up to you. So to make this cover, you could just take two pieces of paper and tape them together so that your album can slip in and out of that sleeve. I'm going to go ahead and make one that actually kind of represents how these albums are actually put together. These sleeves are put together. So it's simply a folded piece of paper, cardboard. In my case, I'm using some Bristol board, a little bit heavier stock of paper. I'm basing all these measurements off of this physical little record that I made. I'm going to give it plenty of room. Make sure that it's not a super tight fit so that I can get the record in and out really easily from the sleeve. Now I'm going to fold this in half. And again, from here you could, again, just kind of tape the outside or maybe glue the edges. If you've left enough room, it should fit okay. Plenty of room on this outside edge, so I'm going to go ahead and trim a little bit more off of that. This actually reminds me of a single. Records would also come in a smaller size as a single, which I think is really appropriate for this project where we're only choosing 2 songs. Okay, so now I'm going to create an inner flap, like the actual packaging for the sleeve. So I'm going to cut a little slit on each edge, and then I'm going to trim the sleeve down just a little bit. Now I actually feel like I made a little bit of a mistake. You could make your album cover actually much wider so that you have more of a lip to allow these two sides to glue together. So after I trim off that little part, I'm going to score the other side where the paper is sticking out further, and I'm going to fold those down. And those little flaps are what I'm going to glue to the other side of the back side of the record cover. So again, I scored those edges, and now I'm just folding them over so that they create an edge that I can put some tape on or use some glue. And in this case, I'm going to use both because I really didn't give myself enough material here. And again, this is just going a little bit above and beyond, really examining the packaging and understanding how it goes together. Again, you could just use 2 pieces of paper and tape them together. So here I'm going to put some tape, kind of extending that flap a little bit, just to make sure that this thing holds together for me the way that I want it to. So you can see there, I've just extended that flap, and because it's tape, it should stick pretty well. Really just pressing that down against the edge. I'd like to let you guys know too, this video was actually 52 minutes, so you see me speeding through some stuff, and it might skip around a little bit, but that was just for the sake of time. So you will find that this takes a little bit more time, but have some fun with it. Okay, trim off anything that might get in the way. Okay, now when I fold this over, I have a little sleeve. And now the real fun part can begin. Now you get to draw or collage or paint or use photographs for your cover. So my album will slip right in there. Let me trim off a little bit more here. All right, so check this out. I've got this record now, and it fits right into the sleeve. Pretty cool, huh? Love it. Okay, so again, you can do whatever you want for your cover. You could just go for it. You could paint, you could use some watercolor, you could use some pencils, colored pencils. I'm going to choose collage. I had these old Xeroxes laying around in a box that were kind of cool. And again, this one was specific to the soundtrack of my life, so I think all of this stuff is appropriate for me and for the songs that I've chosen. No real rhyme or reason as to why I'm cutting. I just kind of went for it. I'm really just thinking about shapes. I kind of like that guy there, that little scientist, and I love the texture of this photograph here. It's actually the building of the Hoover Dam, so it's got a bunch of like rebar and kind of interesting textures. Remember, there's a front and a back. Here's a little cool element. It just says stereo, and it's got some really cool arrows on it. I photocopied that from an actual record. And here's a little logo for the record company. I'm just going to put record on the back here. Just a fun little details. Now I'm going to place that type that I made earlier onto the cover. Again, the nice thing about collaging this too is I can really kind of play with the placement before I've committed to where it's going to be. Your title can be whatever you want it to be. I just chose Soundtrack of My Life because that's the name of this project. Volume 1. On the back, I'm going to list the 2 songs. Now there's an A and a B side to this record, so I'm going to place those elements on the record, the back of the record too. So A and B. And then I'll eventually label the record that I made according to the information that's on the back. Again, you might want to put your name on here since it's very specific to you individually, and have fun with that. So you can see I'm just using a marker for this. Now I'm going to list the bands from the songs that I've chosen, and that's pretty much done. And now I'm going to list those songs and those artists on the actual record. All right. A few more details, just kind of touch things up, and that is it. This is the soundtrack of my life, and made a little record. So I hope you have fun with this. Use any part of this video that you wish. I hope that it inspires you to create your own soundtrack, and I can't wait to see what you guys come up with.